Welcome to the ISE Content Studio here at ISE 2023 in Barcelona. And now we want to talk about market research, digital signage and display market research. And our guest today is Ted Romanowitz, Principal Analyst of Futuresource. Welcome, Ted.
So great to be here and see you guys again.
Yeah, long time no see.
Yes.
um, ISE in Barcelona, what's your feedback? How were the first 2 days?
What a great show. Lots of energy. And I think the difference from last year is last year we got back to the show. Now the show is back to business. There's so much energy here, lots of great vendors, new products, especially with LED, and lots of integrators as well as even end customers at the show.
That's cool. That's cool. So, what are the latest trends in in LED and displays? What did you see?
Well, we're seeing a lot of trends, right? The transformation of the pro display industry is still growing, but that growth is being driven by LED. Projection is on a downward turn, but it's still at the end of the next few years going to be a $4.5 billion market.
And Ted, sorry to interrupt you, but you know what's so interesting about projection? It's very energy efficient.
It
And if
is.
you look at the square meter, so we always try to find out, what is the watts per square meter or so. Then projection is unbeatable. That's all. So maybe maybe they get a new life a little bit. The main
Yeah.
trend obviously is this direction, but I could imagine that that's something which helps projection a little bit.
And if you need to fill a large space, there's no more affordable way than projection, and also to projection map, blend images, all of that warp. Projection is going to be alive and well for years to come.
So it's going to be a niche, but a pretty big niche.
A
You say
very big niche.
4 billion.
4 billion's more, maybe not a niche. It's pretty big.
Mainly for outdoor. I think projection in schools or so, that's pretty much on the downturn, right? I mean, that's
What we're seeing is a kind of a regrowth with higher brightness projection across all the verticals, especially corporate and education, that they're upgrading their systems. Again, there's no better way to scale a big picture cost effectively than projection.
okay.
So, but let's talk about the main product markets, LCD and
Yes.
LED. What
And
do you
there's a
see there?
big transition there as well. LCD panels are still very dominant. LED has taken over the video wall, and in video wall specifically, LED will be 3 times the revenue of tiled LCD by 2026. But overall, by 26, the pro display total market, LED will still be about 51%. So it's still dominant. LED comes up to 40%. Projections about 20. So they're still very big markets, very viable. The growth that we'll see is with true microLED technology. Again, flip chip, not flip chip, it's sub 100 micron chips mass transfer to a TFT or glass backplane with an active driver IC. That will revolutionize and then take all of those sort of close-in distance viewing of digital signage from LCD and transitioning them finally to MicroLED.
And for indoor and outdoor?
Yes, possible.
Because right now outdoor is still a very traditional game. I mean, old outdoor LED, most of the stuff is SMD
Right.
stuff, right?
And there's a lot of volume now in higher brightness, like 1,000 nits LCD panels. But then LED can do much higher than that with MicroLED, even flip chip COB. So I think there's going to be a major transition in the next several years. And by 26, LED won't have taken over to be the dominant. But we think certainly by 2030, it's odd that you often hear an analyst talk about 10-year horizon, but it's certainly going to happen within that time frame.
Especially in a tech-driven market like we are in, because you never know what next innovation step is going to be
Exactly.
around the corner.
Exactly.
But we will still talk about cabinets in some form, right? Form and shaper. So that will still be the dominant form factor.
Yes, but you also see another big trend of all-in-ones,
Yeah.
where it's not kind of cabinet-based, build it up. It all comes assembled as one piece. One manufacturer I've seen here has actually got a 100-plus inch screen, LED screen, that folds up, goes into a travel case, and can be moved around. Creates a really flexible situation to move digital signage around, well, whether it be a trade show or a hotel lobby or something, as a conference as it's needed.
Yeah. talking about display technology, I mean, LCD has been the dominant by far. There's always been, LG tried to establish OLED, but it's still a difficult thing, I guess. But when you look here at ISE, there's a lot of transparent OLED there, right? Is that?
There is.
I'm still struggling to find the market there, to be honest. The use cases, it looks nice.
It does. It's really beautifully architectural wise. But again, there's the market. There's some technical issues with OLED. That's something that we're looking at in our reports coming up. But you also have transparent LED, which is quite interesting. There's another brand here that's showing a 10-foot high glass panel, top to bottom. So that's a nice corporate size, window, and you can fill it with digital signage.
So, but there we're not talking about mesh LEDs like you see them in shop windows today. But as LED becomes smaller, it's really becoming fully transparent then.
Yes, exactly. Now they're doing that at like 1.2 millimeter pixel pitch. It looks great.
Ted, we need to talk a little bit about production manufacturing. There's this big fear that maybe China and everything gets a little bit more difficult. Do you see that manufacturing is moving away? I mean, Samsung and some others already manufacturing in Vietnam. Some of them are even coming closer to European things, or Strata Cache is building this as this thing in the US, close to your home.
Actually, in Eugene, Oregon, I live in Wilsonville, former home to InFocus. Yeah. Maybe some people have heard of that.
So do you see production or manufacturing moving away a little bit from China, closer to the markets? Or?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 years ago, when there was more of a conflictual relationship, a lot of companies, even Chinese companies, looked around Southeast Asia for safe harbor. And now it's like Stratacache is a great example where they're expanding in the US. I fully expect other LED companies will expand their operations. Daktronics is another one that builds in South Dakota.
Yeah.
So we'll see other companies, international LED brands, building in America and also building in Europe for those specific markets.
Is the entry hurdle much lower for LED or micro-LED production than for LCD? I mean, the factories, are they much cheaper when you produce LED?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So with surface mount LED, that's just a fairly easy, technology. You can do, down to 0.9 with a surface mount tool, and you could do that in America. You could do it anywhere in Europe. But once you get into true micro-LED, where you're mass transferring, that's going to be a smaller group of companies that have prior LCD panel manufacturing. They take those down rev LCD panel manufacturing fabs, and they transition it to true micro LED, and that will be some of the bigger names that you've seen in Pro AV over the years are going to step up and start competing against some of the Chinese brands.
Okay, but then we're talking about billions and billions for a fab like this.
Well, they're potentially reusing existing fabs, so it's not going to be that much money.
Well, but they are all almost in China, so that's a problem. Or the vast majority of LCD fabs today are in China.
In China, that's correct. They've moved out. There's still some, I believe, in other parts of Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
I think there's still some in Europe as well. But I think one of the cool things about that is, there is potential to even build true micro LED in America. And I hope, I've heard through the investment community that people are looking at the feasibility of doing that.
Great. Last question.
Sure.
What do you expect for 2023?
2023. Well, from talking to a lot of channel partners, a lot of the big pro display brands, there's so much inventory now coming into the various regions, and they're backlogged, trying to get all these installations done and working with their integrator partners. So I think there'll be a quite significant amount of volume in 23. And then depending on how these unknown world events take place, that could probably hit more in 24. So I think 23 is going to be a healthy year.
Fantastic.
Great outlook.
Ted Romanowitz, Principal Analyst, Futuresource. Thanks for being on, guest. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.